Hey, how's it going, fellow brick builders? My name is Brickbuilt Replicas, and welcome back to another video, and in this one I have brought to life a life-size LEGO replica, a functioning LEGO replica of Chewbacca's Bowcaster from the Star Wars franchise. So this build also had the honor of being featured with a ton of other builders at Brickworld Chicago 2017 as one of the best replica nominees. It's got a ton of features, functions, and details that I'll explain in this video, and we'll start off with the grip here. And this was rounded out with a whole bunch of smooth tiles on the back, and it was also given an iconic wireframey stock. And this one was built simply using a bunch of plates and tiles. It's even got a little bit of that dark gray underneath on a stripe. And it was also rounded out in the back with a use of some curved bricks. Definitely not the best choice for a weapon stock design because its thinness allows it to break easily upon a little bit of force, as this one does sometimes in the creation itself. And the build itself actually originated from an idea I had using those Planet Series spheres that you see on the side of the Bowcaster, and this was just a simple piece that I thought would be a little bit different than using a Lowell sphere method that people have seen before. The barrel slides on using a bunch of 2x2 cylinders as well, and it's held in place through some Technic. And here's a look at the actual function of the Bowcaster. This thing can technically fire at the pull of a trigger through the use of some gears and a rubber band on the back, and the tension that this creates when you pull it back allows it to fire similar to a crossbow mechanism. Certainly proved a difficult challenge in terms of stability because this pretty much shakes the entire build every time you fire. And here's a look at the front sights, just built using a couple of detailing ingots and such. The top of the gun is definitely one of the most detailed parts of the guns because it's all rounded out with a bunch of tiles, but it's also got specialty pieces, especially on the scope that you can see, including those 2x2 round tiles with the holes in the center, one of my new favorite pieces to use on each of my builds. And overall, the gun just has a very sleek and polished look. I barely left any studs open on top of this weapon and tried to make it as accurate to the actual Bowcaster prop that I used as a reference photo for this thing. In the Star Wars franchise, the Bowcaster is one of the most dangerous weapons, a very potent force used by the Wookiee race, and also notably used by Chewbacca himself. Here's a look at the scope that was made using some actual dish pieces from the front of a Millennium Falcon set, and the back was polished off using some grill tiles as well. And here's a look at some of the detailing on the side. This is from an assortment of stickers and different types of finishing pieces, including some more cylinders and chrome studs on the side to act as bolts. Towards the back you can also see that there is an assortment of cylinders to act as a wire that I placed onto some sort of flexible tube to round it out. And here's a more in-depth look at the firing mechanism. As you can see, it's using a little bit of Technic. It's definitely not my design. There is a instruction video out there on how to make a LEGO revolver that I actually kind of borrowed this from because I thought it was an interesting technique to keep a rubber band on it. But this also does give some problems with tension, as you can't really pull the trigger unless you put a lot of force onto it, but it definitely does give it a more accurate and powerful kind of look to it, and it's definitely fun to just pull the rubber band back and forth. One of my most interesting creations, as it was just based off of one piece, and that's the planet sphere in the front, and a whole build developing from this was pretty cool. And on the back you can also see, here's a closer look at that wire that I made. It was using one of the Exoforce translucent tubes that they have, and I stacked a bunch of cylinders on it. It's something that I've done in the past on some of my Overwatch creations, and it gave it a very polished and more accurate look instead of using different types of pieces. And those asteroid field planet spheres are actually the ones that hold the rubber band on the inside. You can separate the two hemispheres, and I actually placed the rubber band through a Technic pin, which does give it a lot more friction on the inside, but it holds it in place fairly well, and it was pretty much the only method I could come up with after a bunch of planning and ideas. And the spheres themselves actually proved to be less heavy than a Lowell sphere would be, meaning that they don't drag down the Technic as much and leave it a bit more stable. So this has definitely been one of my best and most interesting builds, especially considering that it just developed from one part idea and then expanded from there. It was definitely fun to see the progress and the ideas that I came up with throughout it. And it's definitely one of my most interesting builds as well because this is one of the first ones where I've actually tried to incorporate more functions. So I hope you guys do actually appreciate the hard work and effort that I put into this build. If you did, I really would greatly appreciate it if you left a like down below, leave some comments definitely explaining what some of your thoughts are, or I do take suggestions in the comments below if you want to leave some from maybe Star Wars or other games just in general, and I could definitely take a look at all of them. So as always, have a fantastic day, and I will see you brick builders in another video once I finish another Brickbuilt replica.